So I want to start with a few things. I did watch Mr. Poor's press conference. He is correct. We have not spoken since Thursday evening. I believe that he knew something on Friday because we generally speak at least once a day. And I have not heard from him since Thursday evening. I also want to point out that students that were attending in person today were actually logging in to instruction from the teachers who were teaching virtually. So I want to point that out. Just because subs were there, they were still logging in with the teachers who were teaching from home virtually. And those are the same teachers that sent the letters that they would be teaching virtually. I also want to point out that two of our largest high schools, Southwest High School and Parkview, are completely shut down due to quarantine right now, in addition to a couple of other schools. So the whole idea that school went on as normal today is kind of disingenuous. Little Rock educators have worked diligently and collaboratively since school began to try to ensure that the Ready for Learning plan that the district created has been carried out, and that they have reported problems and tried to ensure and work collaboratively with the district to ensure that those problems were taken care of. As I said earlier, I speak with Mr. Poor at least once a day about issues. The Personnel Policy Committee has shared issues, and those minutes are on record on the district's website. Long lists of questions and answers have happened in the Personnel Policy Committee meetings. So I encourage you to go and look at those minutes. Little Rock Education Association educators have observed and documented conditions that are unsafe, protocols that are not being followed, and we are afraid for our students and ourselves. When I put that list together to put out in the press release, I pulled it from a list of documented concerns. So to say that, or to insinuate that we are not being honest about that is completely false. And not only that, it's irresponsible, because if the people who are in the buildings day in and day out are reporting these things, obviously they are happening. We need more custodial staff. Nobody said that our custodians are not doing their jobs. They are doing their jobs, but they're expected to do their jobs plus another person's job, because the whole disinfection protocol is a complete separate job from their normal custodian duties. And we have not hired more custodial staff. We just loaded, like we always do, we loaded more responsibilities on the existing staff. We need more teaching staff. We need people who are dedicated only to teaching virtually. And then we need people dedicated to only teaching in person. The workload is astronomical, and our teachers are suffering from it. We need better social distancing in our classrooms. Some of our classrooms in our older buildings are very small, and it is impossible when you put 14, 15 bodies in that classroom to effectively social distance. We also need some ventilation upgrades. We know that this is an airborne virus and it is transmitted through the air. And that means through ventilation. When you have a shared ventilation system in a building and you have students in a 5th grade class who are positive and they have to quarantine the entire 5th grade, it is a little unrealistic to think that the rest of the school has not been exposed, because it has been exposed due to the ventilation systems. None of our schools, even our newest school, Southwest High School, is having cases probably because of the ventilation systems. We need better protected ratios of adults to students. and we need ADA accommodations for those employees who are at increased risk of contracting the virus. Quarantining and closing facilities is not some kind of competition. We have principals who think that this is a competition and that their school is going to be looked at as less than if they have cases. That leads to underreporting. That leads to lack of quarantining. This needs to be taken seriously, and this needs to be understood that these are people's lives. These are people's children's lives that we are putting at risk because we don't want our school to be seen as having cases. That's ridiculous. And those principals need to be called out on that. The governor has taken the stance that we're just going to proceed as normal until it goes away. It's not going to go away. All the projections show that we are not even going to hit peak until December. It's not going away, and this is not going to be normal for a very long time. Educators and children are getting sick now. They are going to continue to get sick, and someone is going to die if we continue in this manner. We have got to take this situation seriously. Arkansas is a red zone state. Pulaski County, Benton County, and Washington counties all have the most cases in the state of Arkansas. We have got to do something in those areas where we have the most cases. We cannot just keep on going to school and conducting business as normal. I've seen a lot of chatter today on social media, on some of the links that you guys have put up, and some of it has not been kind. So a lot of it is the teachers don't want to work. Let me just say something in response to that. Our teachers are working harder than they have ever worked in their lives right now, trying to keep some semblance of normalcy for our students. And it is unreasonable and it is unsustainable. That's all I have to say. I'll take questions.
Teresa?
Yes.
I want to follow up with you on the numbers, the 69 teachers that they said they received letters from. Is that in line with the participation level that you know of from teachers? And also want to see what you thought about the district saying they're going to move forward with discipline against those teachers.
So we are still collecting numbers. Obviously, our educators have been teaching all day, and so they haven't been able to respond to emails and texts. So we're still collecting numbers on that. We know that a large number called in sick in support, but did not send a letter. And as I said earlier, we also have several schools that are already quarantined, which means those teachers are already teaching completely virtually. So those numbers, those schools probably would have counted as participants if they were not already quarantined. So, in response to the discipline situation, I think it speaks volumes that educators knew they could be disciplined and were willing to risk it to take a stand for their children, for the students that they teach, and for themselves. That goes to show how serious this situation is, because it's not easy for any of us to risk losing a job that we have worked hard to have and that we value. And this is one of those jobs that doesn't end when the bell rings. You take the work home with you. You work on it on the weekends, and a lot of times the educators neglect their own families to take care of their students. And for anyone to insinuate that educators just don't want to work is ridiculous. And as far as the disciplinary measures, it's unfortunate that has to be the first place they go. Because it would seem to me that the first place would be to reach out to those teachers and listen to their concerns, maybe have a roundtable, and let's talk about these concerns and let's try to solve them instead of discounting them. They are real concerns, and they exist in our schools, and they endanger our children.
When will there be another meeting to discuss next steps? Like how long is this planned? Is it definite until the end of the semester or the end of the year or until certain criteria are met?
Well, we stated, based on the motion that was taken and voted on, that it would continue until the numbers dropped or until a vaccine was released. Our members have reached out today and have asked for reconsideration. And so we are working to put that together for this evening to see where our members are and if they want to continue with the action. I think that the public response has really hurt a lot of teachers, and it's unfortunate.
Hi, Teresa. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Superintendent Poore was fairly adamant this afternoon that the district was basically blindsided with this action, and some teachers didn't even submit their sort of notification until after 10 o'clock last night to principals. I just want to stress this, that that was his stance, that he had no idea this was going to happen, and make sure that I have your reaction to the fact that the district didn't seem to know there would be anything happening at all concerning any action from the teachers union.
I don't believe that for a minute. As I said earlier, Mr. Poore and I have talked at least once a day, if not numerous times per day, every single day. And I have not heard a peep from him since Thursday, and that's when the meeting was, Thursday evening. So I find it hard to believe that he didn't know anything. I also know that a meeting was called of the administrators to plan. So obviously somebody knew something. Now, did I communicate it with him? No. That goes against my job as president. I'm not supposed to tell him what we're doing. But I don't believe for a minute that he didn't know that something was coming. Are there any other questions?
Do you have any indication of when the proposed disciplinary action from the district might happen?
No, I have had no communication from the district at this point. I would assume that it would happen either when we report back to school or if we continue the action, it could be tomorrow. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to wait and see how long the action lasts before they do discipline, before they administer discipline. And one of the things that is occurring today is that some people have been put in as no-call, no-shows. Some people have been put in as sick leave, even though they didn't call in sick. But students, like I said, have been logging in to their teachers' virtual lessons, so they've been honoring the fact that we were working, but they're still going to discipline us. So, there's a lot of confusion around that. We have the right as employees to refuse to go to work if we feel that it is an unsafe environment. We have the right to engage in collective action. Those are rights guaranteed by federal laws. I think another question that bears answering is, what happened to all the CARES Act money? Why wasn't it used to hire additional people to supplement? Why wasn't it used to increase our custodial staff so that the disinfection could be better? Why wasn't it used to offset the cost of teachers so that some teachers could teach virtually and some teachers could teach in person, so that the workload wasn't killing us? I think that bears investigation.
And Teresa, just to clarify, just to make sure, so you expect a vote from membership tonight on whether to continue with this action tomorrow?
Yes.
Do you have kind of a time of when you're expecting that vote?
I anticipate having results finalized probably by 7:30, 8 o'clock.
And,
Are
and
there,
Teresa, in terms of prior to the meeting on Thursday, when addressing concerns from the teachers with the Little Rock School District, they've basically just been unreceptive or unresponsive. I mean, what sort of has led to this action that's going on right now?
I've addressed several concerns. Mr. Poore and I, as I said, have spoken on a daily basis, and I've brought concerns to him. The PPC has brought concerns in that group. There are 3 administrators on the Personnel Policy Committee for Certified, and they have brought long lists of concerns from every building in our district. And I think that some of them were answered. A lot of them were discounted. I think Mr. Poore said in his press release, he's gone into buildings himself and not seen evidence. Unfortunately, when the superintendent comes into your building, he's probably not going to see evidence because he's the superintendent. And the minute his car pulls onto the parking lot, the whole building knows the superintendent is on the campus. And that brings with it a little bit better behavior, for lack of a better word. But these conditions exist. There are photos of them. There's documentation of them. Educators would not be reporting these things if they were not worried and fearful. I think that the district has tried to make some effort, but if it involved additional money, or if it involved additional personnel, or if it involved questioning an administrator about what they're doing, there may have been some lack of response there.
And also, just anecdotally talking to some parents today, I mean, there are some frustrations, I think, as you mentioned earlier, that this is disruptive and it was very kind of last minute, and that it's affected students and parents. What's your reaction to any of that criticism you might be receiving?
I hope that parents realize that when educators decide to do something like this, it is because they feel they have no other choice. And it is because the educators feel strongly that our buildings are not safe that they voted to take this action in the first place. We're trying to keep our students safe. We have, for 5 weeks now, we have tried to use the channels that were provided to us to share concerns and have them dealt with, and it has not worked. We are in a situation where we recognize that people are going to get sick, that our students are going to get sick. It's happening now. We have Southwest High School that is closed down completely. We have Parkview High School that is closed down completely. We have Gibbs Elementary School that is closed down completely. And we have grade levels at other schools that are completely quarantined. We know that it's a matter of time before somebody gets very sick and possibly dies from this virus. And we're trying to prevent that. And if I could say one thing to parents, I would say this: you trust the educators to educate your children. You trust us to take care of them every single day. Trust us in this endeavor too. When we say that our schools are not safe, it's because our schools are not safe. Are there any other questions? Thank you all so much. I appreciate it, and I will release an update once the membership makes a decision about tomorrow. Thank you.